Hello everyone, Don here again with the next update on the W.A.R Corsair project. Alright, this weekend I was really planning on getting these insignias painted on the wings. As you can see, this is the bottom of the right outboard wing panel. I got the paint mask, they call it in the vinyl industry, stencil on. So this is ready to be just cleaned and scuffed and painted white. So I started cutting out these parts on Friday. I was expecting to cut out the stencils, get the white painted on Friday, do the blue on Saturday, and then do the red on Sunday, today. Well, plans didn't work out. Turns out I run out of this. I was able to cut this piece and the one blue center, and that was it. I ran out of stencil. So I got to buy another roll. This stuff is 30 inches wide, comes in 10 yards, so 30 feet. And I still need like 20 more feet to cut the rest of the stencils, because it takes 3 stencils to do 1 insignia, and I got 2 insignias to cut. So that's on hold. So for the weekend I decided to go ahead and do a little work on the canopy mold. You can see here I did finally get the first coat of Bondo on there. Excuse me. And allergies were acting up again this weekend. But I got the first coat of Bondo on there and sanded out. And if you remember, I mentioned that I used what I believe is a piece of Kevlar for the final coat on this, and it was epoxied in. But as I sanded down through and got into the fibers of this stuff, it doesn't sand. It don't sand for shit. It just kind of fuzzes up. So there's a lot of spots here where the fabric had come through on the Bondo. So what I'm going to try and do is mix up some epoxy and coat all these light spots where you can see the different colors here. That's where it's basically sanded through the Bondo into that. But this white stuff here, that's still got some powder in it, so it stands out real good. And you can literally feel it. It's puffy. But when it's sanded up, it holds the powder from the sanding, and it just puffs up, and you can literally feel it. So it's not good. So for my first attempt at making this canopy, once I get this knocked down and do a little more filling and sanding, it's pretty in good shape right now. But that there was going to be kind of an issue. I plan on trying to cover this with some flannel cloth and then heat up a piece and drape it over it and stretch it. Pull down on the sides, stretch it over to get it to form. Now this here, this front of this thing, the canopy is actually right about here. This is extra just to go past, but when it gets cut, it'll be cut right down this seam. The same way with back here, about the back, 1.5 to 2 inches is not part of the canopy. The canopy really stops about here. So it's under, I made the flanges longer, and it's also down here. It only comes down to maybe here. So the canopy is a lot smaller than this mold. That was the idea. But I'll do a little more work on that as I go. So until I order, and we're looking at $50 for more vinyl. So another item I decided to do is one of my followers who's actually starting his own W.A.R Corsair. He's looking to go 60% scale because he has a Werner engine. And he was really wanting to know what the weight of my aircraft is at this point. So what I did is I built this little contraption here. It's basically a leverage system, so you can use a standard old bathroom scale. Now these pipes are from the center of this piece of angle. As you can see, it's just a piece of steel angle on there. From the center of that angle to the center of the bottom of this angle is exactly 4 feet. Now that bigger piece of tube's on there to make up the height difference of the scale. So if you put a level on this thing, it should be pretty close to level if the floor's level. And then you just zero out the scale. And then this here is 1 foot. So from the center of this angle on the bottom to the center of this pad is 1 foot. So you put the tire right over top of this, set the airplane down on that, and then from that angle to the end is 4 foot. So what you have is a 4-to-1 ratio. So whatever this thing weighs on that scale, you multiply by 4 to get the actual weight. So I did that, and at the same time, you have to make blocks to block this tire up to the same height as the tire on that. So, so I had blocks, and I put that on there. The tail I didn't worry about because I'm not doing an actual weight and balance. I'm just trying to figure out the gross weight, the finished weight of the airplane with everything I have. So that's why I have the cowling on there, and I took the propeller and the prop hub and the blades, this warp drive setup here, and I weighed that, and with the bolts and everything, and that weighs 11 pounds. And I can't remember what the numbers were for the, I think they were in the 300, I think the left side was like 324 and the right side was like 340, something like that. And I'm like, why am I seeing such a difference from right to left? Then it dawned on me, I got a 20 plus pound battery on the right side of the fuselage in there. So that's adding up. And then there might be a little inconsistencies in how thick the foam is and such, but overall it's pretty close. So when it all come down to it, I weighed this wing because it was out, and it was like 36.8 pounds. So I just averaged it out to 37 pounds per wing. I didn't try to weigh this one just simply because it's on the table all papered up and I didn't want to disturb it. So basically everything is on the plane that's going to be in the plane. So the wings were 37 pounds a piece, the fuselage, the tail was only 20 pounds. All I did is stick the scale under the tail, read it at 20 pounds. That's all the weight that's on there right now. So, but anyway, the gross ended up coming out to just about 774 pounds. And alright, sorry folks, damn battery died on me. I never do see this thing when it's coming to an end. But anyway, I was saying that the total weight with everything I have figured up, with the prop, everything in the airplane minus just a few things missing, some hardware here and there, but for the most part I got everything in here. The total came out to 774 pounds. I was hoping to see, you know, closer to the 700 pounds than the 800 pounds. But that's not how it worked out. So I'm stuck with it. But again, I have a lot bigger engine, heavier engine. I got water, extra water in there. I got hydraulic system. So it's a little heavier than the standard, but I've seen just regular W.A.R. Corsairs come in at 800 pounds or more. I've seen some as much as 900, so that's pretty crazy. So, but with 140 horsepower, it should do real well. So, since I'm working on the canopy thing, I had to do a couple mods to my cabinet here, oven that is. One of the big things is that bottom platform down here. I'm at the end of my cord for my power supply here. It used to come all the way out to the end of the door, and the problem was whenever I opened the door up, it was dragging really hard on the bottom. So now it's free to open and close. And then as you can see, I also put a handle on it. Put a handle on this side. Let me latch this real quick. So I got the handle on that side. And then I took and added a handle on this side. So now I've got something to grab onto. This thing was kind of a pain to move around. The problem I had was the base, that front lip that stuck out right here was bending up from the weight. The caster wheel was out on the very end. The cabinet was slowly twisting down and the door was dragging real hard. Plus these little 2x4s are pretty flimsy. This sheet metal 2x4s. They're not meant to support really any weight. But so I did is I cut it off, moved that front piece back in, and then I used some what they call riv nuts, little like pop rivets that are threaded inserts. Put those in the bottom of those frame there, and there is tin on the bottom of that still. And then I took the plywood and screwed it up through with some 1024 screws. And then the caster wheels, I ended up putting little Tinnerman nuts, what do they call them? Little round nuts with 3 or 4 burrs in it. 6 into the wood, and then I 1024 screws up into those. So there's four screws on each wheel for those nuts, so they're not going anywhere. So now it rolls nice and straight again. Before the wheels were starting to get cocked in from that bottom bending. So now it's got a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. So now I had to get that ready, cleaned up so I can heat up the plexiglass to do that first attempt to make a canopy. So basically get into that mode. I'll get that windshield anchored down, and I may just paint a frame around it for now. Like I said, I do want to use the aluminum to make a frame eventually. I've kind of really given up hope on getting this thing out this year, but I'm at least going to try and get it finished up at least. At the very least, I still need to get the FAA to come up and give it a once over and hopefully get an airworthiness certificate for it so I can start taxiing it. But then before I try to fly, I still have to get a biannual flight review done and get my medical updated. So then I'll be legal to fly again. So next week you're probably not going to see a video. I've got other pressing issues to deal with. My car is run out of inspection, and it's taken on some cancer. You can see there I cut that open today to get a good look inside. The other side has the same problem, but it's not as bad. This car is 10 years old, but that cancer goes underneath quite a bit, almost up to the front of that door. So I just ordered up 2 rocker panels, patch panels for these. You can only get 2 styles. You can get this real thin, cheap one. It's full length, but they tend to be thinner and it's not as accurate. And then the other style is a full length one that actually comes up and goes right on inside the door where you step in. It goes right up inside underneath if you use. But I'll be cutting it and finding a seam in there to put it all in. For the most part, the whole front end from there back to there is solid. There's no rust. But underneath it's pretty thin. They put a rubberized coating on there, so you could never tell it was rusted until it started blistering. By then it was too late. So, but it's 10 years old. But I'm going to clean it up because I'm looking to get rid of it and get me a new car. So, so I want to get that cleaned up and sold, so it's a nice car. All right, so that's going to do her for this week's update. I was really hoping to get this painted because this week there's going to be this cold spell coming down out of Canada with the jet stream, and it's going to be dropping down into the 50s and 40s at night. So by the end of the week, next weekend's only going to be high of 50 or so. So if I got to work on that car, I ordered the panels today. It says it's a one-day ship, so it'll probably be here Tuesday, and I may go ahead and drill out spot welds and get that thing pulled off and figure out where I want to cut it and kind of work on it during the week maybe for next weekend. So I'm not going to be working on this at all. I'm going to go ahead and use the 3M bonding to put them panels in. I'm not going to try and weld them. Welding just takes the zinc out of the metal and just makes it rust easier afterwards. So with the bonding process, you can literally paint the inside and everything and just leave a bare metal edge where you're going to bond to, and then the actual epoxy will seal up the bare steel if you coat it all when you put it together, and you don't have to worry about it rusting anytime soon. So I may go ahead and mix up some epoxy and get this thing covered. I'm not sure if I want to do the whole thing or just part of it. I don't know how well the epoxy will stick to the Bondo, but I really need to get some epoxy in them fibers to kind of solidify them, and then maybe put another skim coat of Bondo on there and touch it up and go from there. But once I put the cloth on there, they don't really stick out, but you can feel them. And once I put that cloth on there and stretch it, it may not affect it. So hopefully I can minimize those. Otherwise, if that method doesn't work, then I'll have to really finish that up real fine, and then go ahead and do the female mold and vacuum forming like my original intent was. So that's going to do it for this week's update. Again, sorry, I'm probably not going to be able to do an update next weekend. I'm going to get to work on that car. I'm going to at least get the driver's side done and maybe tackle the passenger side a little later. So for now, that's going to be it. It's been a nice day, nice and breezy but comfortable. It was warm this weekend. That's why I wanted to get this thing painted. So now I'm going to have to push it to the side, and there's a inner liner for the rear wheel. So until the next time, might be a couple weeks till I do another update on the Corsair project. The weather's just going to turn south, I think, from here on out. But because I got this room insulated, I can still continue doing things. I still got a trim tab to make and finish up the tail cone a little bit, and the little doors for the rudder horn access, and make the panels and the gear covers for the front. and get that stuff painted up. Those are little projects, but all these little things just take time. Alright, so that's going to do it, folks. Appreciate everyone taking the time to watch these videos like always. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, or concerns, and I'll get this thing put together and on tonight so you guys have something to watch. So, like I say, it might be a couple weeks before I can get back to making videos on this. So, until the next one, folks, thanks for watching. This is Dino Don out.